Hey, everybody. Before we begin the show, I wanted to give a shout out to our friends at PowerPool. PowerPool is a mining pool and is one of the most profitable for miners. So if you have one miner at home or a fleet of miners at scale, point your workers to PowerPool to enjoy the best payouts. PowerPool supports a number of algorithms, SHA-256 for Bitcoin, X11 for Dash, and others. And of course, we're focused and we care about the most, S-CRYPT for Litecoin, Dogecoin, and now Bell's Coin, Merge Mining. Pointing your workers to PowerPool is easy with its simple user interface, and the platform also has all the reporting available that your operation needs. Typically, PowerPool extends a low 1% pool fee. However, if you register with the 84 million link in the show notes, you will lock in a sub 1% pool fee, which is excellent. Cheers, happy mining. Hello and welcome to the 84 Million podcast. Today we have as our guest on episode 34, Mr. Samir Kerbage. Today we're going to talk about Litecoin and Hashdex, and we're grateful to have Samir on the show. So let me give you a little introduction here. Samir Kerbage is the CIO at Hashdex, a global pioneer in crypto asset management, overseeing over, at least in terms of January 2025, 1.27 billion in client assets. Samir holds a degree in computer engineering from, pardon my pronunciation, Instituto Militar de Engenharia, IME, of Brazil, and has a decade of experience building financial market infrastructure. He can be found on X at Samir Kerbage. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Kyle. Thank you for having me.
Very glad to have you. The folks don't get to see the technical difficulties we just overcame. So we're live, we're stable, we're good. So I gave you a very brief introduction here. Before we really pick up the topic, what did I miss on your introduction?
I'm a computer engineer. I'm passionate about crypto and finance. And actually, I started my career because I saw the opportunity to basically transform financial markets through technology. So we ended up learning about crypto and blockchain back in 2015, and that was a total match. So been dedicated to the space since then.
Very, very good. So 2015, you've been around a little while then. I was aware of it 2012-ish. I know a lot of us kind of woke up again or rejoined in 2017. So you're kind of somewhere between that time. So you were in the military as well and doing development there, or security?
I studied in a military university, computer engineering. So I worked for some time in cybersecurity in the military before, going to private markets and going to finance. And first time I heard about Bitcoin was 2011. I read the white paper, and I was passionate about that. I think it was a very clever idea, but I thought, mainstream, traditional markets are never going to adopt a magic internet currency. And then it took me a few years until I completely changed my mind. And now I'm here trying to convince TradFi folks to join crypto.
Yeah, I mean, you're on the exact opposite side of that sort of idea. I mean, one, you're kind of spectating. No one's ever going to adopt this. And now, and we're going to discuss this, you're with Hashdex and you're introducing this stuff to the world, not only Brazil, but the world and other filings and different vehicles, which again, we'll talk about. That's why we're here today. So very good. So what led you maybe to Hashdex? And can you tell us a little bit about what Hashdex as an organization is doing? From what I know, you're offering crypto-based assets to global markets, including the United States. So maybe we could look at that too. What's available to the world? What's available to the folks like me in the United States?
So Hashdex is a crypto-focused asset manager. So we created Hashdex back in 2018 because we saw a need. We started to see demand from traditional investors. Everyone, if you remember 2017, everyone wanted to invest in crypto, but not all investors could join the party because some investors would need to invest through traditional rails. They would need a fund, an ETF, or some kind of security wrapper to invest in crypto, and there wasn't any vehicle available, any professionally managed fund available. So we saw that as an opportunity, and we started the company in early 2018, and really like to create this bridge and to bring crypto as an investable asset class to traditional investors. We started the company in the US, but we soon realized that it was going to be very hard to build an asset management business, a crypto asset management business in the US because of the regulatory environment. So we went out to other regions that we saw that the regulators would be more open to have like engage in discussions. And we ended up having good interactions with the regulators in Brazil. And we decided to start the company, to start the first funds in Brazil. So right now, Hashdex has a set of funds and ETFs available in multiple countries. So we have it in Europe, like in Switzerland, Germany, France, Netherlands. We have in Latam, in Brazil and Chile, and we have also some products available in the US. So for US investors, we have two products. We have a Bitcoin ETF, and we recently launched the Hashdex Nasdaq Crypto Index US ETF, the ticker NCIQ. And our flagship strategy everywhere is the Nasdaq Crypto Index. It's an index that we co-developed with Nasdaq to be like a sort of Nasdaq 100 for crypto. So an index, a benchmark where you could, with one asset, with one investment, get a broad exposure to the space.
Before we talk about that fund specifically, because that's where a Litecoin comes in, can you describe maybe what the environment is like in Brazil, that you favored that legal or jurisdictional form, and how it's friendlier versus what your experience was here in the U.S.?
Yeah, so back in 2018, we saw in Brazil a lot of Ponzi schemes and a lot of frauds related to crypto. So the regulator was very concerned about those frauds and saw like an opportunity to work with asset managers like Hashdex to offer access through regulated funds to traditional retail investors. So if you wanted to invest in crypto, you could invest for a fund instead of like going directly, and ended up like getting caught in a lot of Ponzi schemes without understanding where you're going to. So that was the general idea of the regulators, bringing investor protections to crypto through regulated funds. And so the first crypto fund in Brazil was launched in 2018. We launched our first like mutual funds in 2019, and we've been working we've worked a few years until in 2021 we've been able to approve the world's first crypto index ETF. Which was like the Hashdex Nasdaq Crypto Index ETF in Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it was a huge success. Like in the first month, it increased the number of investors on B3, the Brazilian stock exchange, in something like 30% overnight.
Wow.
Just like the demand for that type of product. Right now is the third largest ETF in the country. It's one of the most traded every day. So it's a huge success in Brazil. A big case for ETF in Brazil, and I think that was there was a lot of demand from traditional investors, like financial advisors, and regular traditional investors that don't know how to have their own wallet and want to care about like having their own assets in their own custody.
Very good. It's interesting to hear about Brazil and other nations for that matter, because here in the U.S. we kind of tend to be in a bubble, and we only kind of know how it is here. And here, crypto at point of sale, and that's not what you're doing. It's been limited. I think it's gone backwards, and now we're seeing ETFs. You guys are a part of that, kind of in the traditional financial markets. But it sounds like Brazil, as a people, or the Brazilians or the folks there, it sounds like they're pretty open to crypto, and they're excited about what you're offering and just the space in general. Is that right?
Yeah, because in Brazil, we have a very modern financial infrastructure. Okay. And we have this because of the recent past of like high inflation and, just a lot of problems with the currency. So we have evolved our financial system to be very modern overall. one of the things that we see here, like a huge adoptions, for instance, for stablecoins. And this is because it's just like a way more efficient way to get access to the US dollar than to use the traditional financial rails. So the Brazilians, they've been early adopters of crypto overall, and the regulators, they have seen that, and they have been working to give like clear rules. So it was very interesting because we saw that happening in Brazil after the ETFs were approved in 2021. All the financial institutions, they kind of started to experiment into crypto, because like before the ETF, crypto was something like, you can't touch it. It's, for criminals, it's not regulated, etc. So after the regulators approved an actual ETF, all the financial institutions, they started to explore crypto because the topic was not toxic anymore. And then we saw more regulatory clarity. We saw laws passing in the Congress, and now we have a very, I would say, a very advanced crypto ecosystem overall in adoption. And we're seeing this happening now in the US, right? So yes, last year we saw the Bitcoin ETFs being approved.
That's right.
And after that approval, all of a sudden the financial institutions started to get involved into the space and started to see the opportunity. And now we're seeing more regulatory clarity, hopefully, that's going to open up space for a lot of innovation and a lot of like new use cases for crypto. So overall, we're very bullish about what's happening in the US right now. I think things are finally changing.
Okay, that's a good word. So speaking about the U.S. Environment or what you're offering with Hashdex in the United States, it is the Hashdex NASDAQ Crypto Index U.S. ETF. That's specifically, I think, the name. You said it was NCIQ is the ticker?
Yes.
And I want to say yesterday I saw some filing or submission of some sort. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so
regarding the other cryptocurrencies you're adding to the fund.
Yeah, no, sure. So like I said, we've co-created the NASDAQ Crypto Index to be a benchmark for the space. Okay, so right now the NASDAQ Crypto Index has 9 constituents. Okay, so it's a market cap weighted index, rebalances every quarter. So it's very evolutive. It's designed to evolve as the market evolves. Okay, and this index has been running since 2021. We have this index everywhere we have presence, except for the US. So
that was my point of clarity, because I know you are offering these to other countries, but here I think it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So what's happening in the US? Yes.
Yeah, so what's happening in the US? We saw Bitcoin ETFs being approved last year, and then Ether ETFs being approved last year. So what we decided to do was an incremental, an evolutive approach to, in the end, have an index like the NASDAQ Crypto Index, like the full-blown NASDAQ Crypto Index available in the US. So we started with a very simple methodology, which is the NASDAQ Crypto Index US methodology. That has a set of eligibility criteria, but one of those is that the asset must be, supported by to be listed as an ETF in the US. So that nails down the universe to only Bitcoin and Ether. So right now, the product that we have available in the market, the NCIQ, only has Bitcoin and Ether. Okay, and the design is that as more assets are approved as ETPs, we could eventually have those assets part of the index. And what we decided to do now, especially with this new administration and the new stance they have towards crypto, and they're open to discuss standards for crypto ETPs, is that we decided to request the regulators to change the underlying index. So instead of using the NASDAQ Crypto Index US, which is this very restricted version of the index, we use the global one that we have available in all the countries we operate. Okay, so that's the change we have proposed for the regulators. Okay, so this is, of course, pending regulatory decision. There's a whole process that needs to go around this. Let's see where that gives us, like what that gives us in the end.
So this is a Litecoin podcast. We're here focusing specifically on Litecoin as a cryptocurrency, as a technology. Now we're seeing traditional finance looking at it to bundle it within exchange-traded funds. That's where you guys come in. So we're looking at that. And for the U.S., this is new. You filed to bring Litecoin and other cryptocurrencies to your current offering, which is again Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you're already offering Litecoin to the rest of the world. Is that right? So this is only new for the United States.
Yes.
Or U.S. investors, I should say.
Exactly. So yeah, this Litecoin has been part of our indices since 2018. Okay, so and this has been available in all the countries we operate. We started in Cayman and in Brazil, in Switzerland, Germany, and basically like all those countries in Europe. Yeah, so Litecoin is it's integral part of the crypto ecosystem, right? And has a strong support for from exchanges, from custodians, has satisfy all the eligibility criteria of the index. So in terms of market capitalization, liquidity, support by institutional exchanges and custodians. So it's a very solid candidate for an index like the Nasdaq Crypto Index.
Of course, I agree with you. I'm not a regulator, but we favor Litecoin, and watching things unravel here or unfold here, even under the former SEC chair Gary Gensler, and as hard as he ended up being for crypto, there were very few currencies that he kind of gave a pass in some public statements, and Litecoin was one of them. There was Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash, I want to say, because they share the same Genesis block, meaning BCH and BTC. So there's something different about Litecoin. I think it's a commodity. Many in the community think it's a commodity. Would you view it as kind of a commodity type of crypto versus, all the tokens that can be minted out of thin air? I'm just curious what your opinion is of the asset Litecoin and how you evaluate it to include it in your funds.
No, definitely. So it's the classification, the taxonomy of crypto assets is something very hard to nail down, especially because the space is evolving. Yeah. And there's a lot of different use cases, but Litecoin is one of the ones that we can definitely say is a commodity, right? It's sufficiently decentralized since the beginning. So it's we see this as in general, like the Bitcoin forks we see as being very stable in terms of how they're seen as commodities, and that's how they're incorporated in the regulatory frameworks. But when you talk about smart contract platforms, there's a lot of things you can do with smart contracts, right? And some of those things, they may be securities, they may be collectibles, they may be commodities. So that's the limits are the human creativity and what you can build with smart contracts. So that's where I think it's very challenging for the regulators to wrap their heads around. But when you're talking about proof of work and just simple currencies, cryptocurrencies like Litecoin, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, that's amazing to hear you've been supporting Litecoin since the beginning. I think that's a kind of a strike of confidence for sure. And the world has had access to Litecoin indirectly through Hashdex, and now the United States, God willing, with approvals and everything else, folks here can access the same. So, how is it weighted? How much exposure, if we buy a share of the index, how much exposure would somebody get to Litecoin in that share?
No, so it's important to highlight that this is what we call passive investing. Okay, so the very important thing about passive investing is how you define the rules, and then it's very systematic. Okay, so we don't define a weight, we don't have the discretionary of having more allocation or less allocation to an asset. Okay, so the Nasdaq Crypto Index is market cap weighted. Okay, which means that we basically the fund administrator, they have a methodology to evaluate the free float supply of the currency, okay? And then they have their own pricing methodology. And with that, they come up with the market cap of the assets, and the Nasdaq Crypto Index is market cap weighted. So every quarter, it rebalances, and new assets might be included or excluded from the index, depending on their weight and their participation. Right now, as I see it here, Litecoin has 0.38% allocation in the index, and it can go up if the market cap goes up, it can go down if the market cap goes down. So it's really passive and really doesn't depend on our willingness and our discretionary.
Sure. No, you have a model that's working, and again, that framework's been set since day one, 2018. Is that correct? So I'm curious if in former times when because a lot of Litecoin's history, it was in the top 10. A lot of us think it's going to return to that position. But I would imagine maybe in the past, it might have had a heavier weight within your index. So that's fluctuating, it sounds like. But I should say, you're getting a pool, you're accessing a pool of assets, which are determined by, the rules you set and all of your goals as an institution, regulation, everything else. But you are getting exposure to some Litecoin within the Hashdex ETF. So you are including it. How does it work with procuring the Litecoin or any of the cryptos? Do you have custody somewhere? Is it, I imagine you're outsourcing that to a great degree. I don't know if you're talking to miners. How does that work?
Yeah, so 100% of our assets are stored with institutional custodians. Okay, so we have like multiple institutional custodians, and we store those assets across different custodians. So 100% of those assets are in, like cold storage. They're not on exchanges. They're not in hot wallets, and we don't hold the keys for the assets. They stay with third-party custodians.
Right.
And we normally every time we have like creations or redemptions on the ETF, we have to issue shares. We need to go and buy the crypto assets, right? So what we normally do is that we run an auction with multiple market makers, multiple liquidity providers, and they would source the cryptocurrencies, the Litecoin in that case. They would source Litecoin to us at the settlement price of the index. So that's how we normally trade those assets. So it's really like OTC trading with like the big market makers that are trading on the spot exchanges 24/7.
Got it. Very, very good. Let's maybe zoom out and talk about the crypto environment generally. I mean, we've had kind of Bitcoin go from the 106s, 108s. Now we're down the 80s. People are a little concerned. There's some disruptions in terms of global peace and things like this. What's going on? How do you see it? Are we still in what we call a bull market? Are there brighter days again in 2025? How do you see it? Where are we situated in March 2025 through December? How do you view this year?
Yeah. Oh, so this is a great question, because as we entered this new year, like we had like so many interesting tailwinds for crypto, right? We have this new administration, which has like a very pro-crypto stance. They're running a full crypto task force at the SEC to review the rules and give clarity to it. There is a crypto czar advising the president. So the environment is here to have regulatory clarity, to finally have regulatory clarity in the US. And that is happening in all the other countries. That is happening in Europe with MiCA, right? Europe already has a regulatory framework for crypto, and the US doesn't have yet. So great regulatory environment. We're seeing, on the adoption, we're seeing improved adoption. So institutional investors are more open to it, or they are intrigued about the success of the Bitcoin ETFs, and they're looking for more. And we have on the technology side also a lot of things evolving. Stable coins, they are like probably the big, I would say the big killer app for smart contracts that all the banks are exploring, tokenization, etc. So we have a great environment for crypto, but we have like one big tension, which is like geopolitical tension. This new administration, they're changing a lot of things. Yeah. They like to say that they're moving at tech speed. And when you move at tech speed, you move fast and you break things, right? That's the motto when you're moving at tech speed. So they're creating a lot of uncertainty in the market. And the markets, they don't like uncertainty. And that's what we see now across all the risk assets. It's an environment where, we don't know what's happening. We don't know like whether those peace negotiations, where they're going to get through all those tariffs negotiation. Is this really like a geopolitical tool going forward, or he's just using this to bargain like better deals? We don't know, right? So that's the moment we're living now. And hopefully that's only going to take a few weeks or a few months until all those things are cleared out. And then we can go back to the fundamentals, right? And we can go back to, like having like a strong regulatory clarity. New applications will come of this. All the banks, remember, like before February of this year, the US banks, they were basically banned from using crypto.
Yeah.
They couldn't offer crypto to their clients. Now they can. So, and they're all working towards this. So things are changing. And when we look at the fundamentals, we couldn't be more optimistic about crypto overall. And so that's what we continue to believe. So we're very optimistic about like prices, especially like 6 months to 12 months ahead. We're very optimistic. There's a lot of things that need to be cleared out in the short term, not related to crypto, but more on the, this new administration and just macro and geopolitical environment. And especially when we look to 5 to 10 years, like this, this technology is taking off. It's finally getting into the adoption phase. So we couldn't be more excited.
So what does it look like to kind of look at the 10-year? What are you thinking the space will look like in 10 years from now, 2035?
Yeah, so 20 to 35 years.
This is speculation. 2035 versus 2025.
10 years from now.
Yeah,
right?
10 years.
So it's very hard to go far away from where we are right now, but I think that we're not going to be talking about crypto. We're just going to be using it in our day-to-day. Just like now we're using the internet, and we're not talking about the internet. We're not talking about TCP/IP. We're not talking about like which protocol we're using to have the streaming. We're not talking about the protocols that people are using to watch this. So I think crypto will be fully integrated into our society. We're probably going to have like a store of value. Like Bitcoin will be seen as a very consolidated store of value. We might be see payments, all payments going on chain, assets tokenized. So I think it's a very different moment we'll be living in. And I like to compare the moment we live in now with the internet back in the 90s, right? So if you go back to the internet in the 90s, like if we were here in 1995 and you ask me how the internet is going to be in 2005 or 2010, like it's very hard to imagine. But anything I could say about streaming, about like doing things on the internet, you would say, okay, but if I try to listen to a music, I need to download an MP3. It takes 10 hours to do this, and it's illegal. So how can you have live streaming if you can listen to a music on the internet, right? So it's very hard to project how those things are going to evolve, especially because they are evolving exponentially, and we tend to think linearly, right? So it's very hard to assess that. But I think the technology is evolving, the infrastructure is evolving. Most importantly, the society is evolving to use it, right? So we're seeing a generational shift in our society. This new generation coming digital native, they're trading more crypto than they're trading stocks. So when this next generation is like 10 years from now, when they are in decision-making positions, they will not be trading on paper, right? They will be using blockchain. So yeah,
that's a good word. So we're in, despite these rallies, and we've seen $100,000 Bitcoin. I think many of us would say, how high is this going to go? We can be bearish, with that. Yeah, you're describing kind of a situation we're in is like we're in 56K or something like that in terms of internet versus, where we are with fiber and everything else. So yeah, I think it's exciting to observe. Obviously, this is speculation. I just appreciate the opinion on it. And we'll have to see. But I know immediately, not 10 years from now, more like a few months, there's the Litecoin Summit coming up in Las Vegas. You're a speaker there. I don't know. Have you been to a summit before? Are you just going to the Litecoin Summit? Are you going to go to the Bitcoin conference too? What are your plans there?
Yeah, no. So I've never been to a Litecoin Summit. So it's going to be my first time. I've been to some Bitcoin conferences, and I'm going this time as well. So yeah, looking forward to see how that's going to play out and connect with the Litecoin community.
Yeah, I think it'll be exciting. Last year I was there. I missed a number of years, unfortunately, due to kind of personal things in the household and surgeries and births and who knows what. But last year was a lot of fun in Nashville, and really looking forward to Las Vegas. So we look forward to seeing you, hearing about the ETF. Maybe we have approval by that point, or I should say the expansion of your current fund by that point. And there are exciting times. I mean, I think what we're discussing and what you're doing in your office with Hashdex, I mean, we couldn't even believe this, back in 2012. Like, this is kind of the prophecy coming out, and it's almost like we don't even believe it as it's unfolding before our eyes. So really interesting conversation. I appreciate your time today. Everybody, again, this is Samir Kerbage. He's with Hashdex. He's the CIO. You can find him on X at Samir Kerbage, his name spelled out. And any final words you wanted to leave us with before we end the show today?
No, Kyle, really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me. If you like more details about Hashdex, feel free to check our website. We have a lot of content. And like I said, our main mission is to bridge this gap between, TradFi and crypto. And hopefully we do this one step at a time with the regulators, with the investors, and with the community.
Very good, sir. We'll leave it at that, folks. You know where to find Samir. Again, go to the Litecoin Summit this coming May, litecoin.com/summit. You can meet the gentleman in person, hear him on his panel, discuss the ETFs, and learn a lot more about it. So we hope to see you there. But with that being said, thanks for listening. We appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Follow this episode on 84million.com/podcast. You can find this video format, audio, and all of our other episodes that we put out so far. Again, Samir, thank you for your time. Have a good one, and hopefully we talk soon.
Thank you so much. Right.
Yes, sir.